30 years have passed since the debut of Forrest Gump, the iconic film that became an instant classic, won 6 Oscars, and captivated audiences worldwide. But beyond all the glitz and glamour, there's been something left unsaid. Even though the film was well received by critics and viewers, Sally Field stayed noticeably mum throughout. She shunned reunions and seldom discussed the film for decades, leaving admirers to wonder why. The 30 years of quiet have now been finally shattered. At long last, Sally Field has spoken. What exactly did she release? That's sincere. You won't believe it. It has taken even her most loyal followers by surprise. For all these years, she kept a secret that had much to do with more than just acting. There's more at play here. Sally Field's early life and career, as well as one of Hollywood's most adored films, may be forever changed by this. Sally Field's life was full with both opportunities and obstacles before she became one of the most revered actors in Hollywood. As a child growing up in Pasadena, California, Sally had some ties to the entertainment industry. She was born on November 6, 1946. Margaret Field, her mother, had a successful acting career. Richard Dryden Field, her father, was a chemist and Army veteran of World War II. But all changed in 1950 when her parents split up. Her mother's marriage to stuntman and actor Jock Mahoney took place in Tijuana, Mexico, just 2 years after she was born. From the outside looking in, her youth may have seemed promising, but there was certainly no easy road ahead. After years of silence, Sally finally spoke up in her 2018 memoirs about the sexual assault she endured at the hands of her stepfather, Jock Mahoney. She later revealed that the experience had a lasting impact on her early years. She found solace in cheerleading throughout her teenage years at Portola Middle School and later at Van Nuys's Birmingham High School. Notable alumni like Michael Milken, Michael Ovitz, and Cindy Williams were among her classmates. But Sally, opposing her were her other intentions. Sally's breakout role came in 1965 on the comedy TV series Gidget. Despite its brief run, it catapulted her into the spotlight. From 1967 to 1970, she was a mainstay in American homerooms thanks to her subsequent career, The Flying Nun. Although Field enjoyed the quirky, innocent pleasure, he was not creatively fulfilled. She had previously voiced her displeasure that her early sitcom roles had diminished her credibility. Then came Sybil, 1976, the game changer. She proved her dramatic chops and earned a Primetime Emmy for her eerie portrayal of a woman with dissociative identity disorder. Her acting career blossomed after that. In 1979, for Norma Rae, she received her first Academy Award. In 1984, for Places in the Heart, she received her second. After Forrest Gump, Sally starred in a slew of other films, including Steel Magnolias, Smokey and the Bandit, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Steel Magnolias 2. She excelled in a variety of tasks. Even in the same film, she had the power to evoke strong emotions and provoke deep thought. Along with her return to television, Sally won further Emmys for her work on shows like ER and Brothers and Sisters. What about her acting career? Equally stunning. She demonstrated her worth wherever the spotlight took her, from Broadway to the West End of London. Everything about Sally Field's life has been complicated, but that's what makes her so remarkable. Life outside of work. Sally Field's personal life was a roller coaster of emotions, just like her professional life. She, too, was winging it, just like the rest of us. Stephen Craig was Sally's first husband. Despite really splitting up in 1973, they were married in 1968 and remained a married couple until 1975. Peter Craig, one of their 2 sons born in 1969, became a writer for both film and novels, as well as Eli Craig, who came into this world in 1972 and went on to become a filmmaker and actor. After her first marriage ended in divorce, Sally became embroiled in a highly publicized romance involving actor Burt Reynolds. Their relationship began in the mid-1970s and lasted until 1980. During that time, they co-starred in 4 films: Hooper, Smokey and the Bandit 2, The End, and Smokey and the Bandit 2. Their on-screen connection was contagious, and viewers loved seeing them act together. However, things were not as they appeared from the backstage. They remained officially separated in 1980, but their romance was on again, off again until 1982, when they finally broke up. Sally eventually tied the knot with Alan Griezmann in 1984. In 1987, she gave birth to a boy named Sam. It was a failure, though, just like her first marriage. In 1994, Sally and Alan finally parted ways. There were scary occasions in her personal life as well. A terrifying plane disaster killed Sally and 3 of her family members on October 29, 1988. Located in Colorado, they were on board the private plane of media mogul Merv Griffin at Aspen-Pitkin County Airport. While getting ready to take off, the jet's power went out, and it collided with another plane that was parked. Thankfully, their injuries were modest, and they all made a full recovery. But everyone who took part in the frightening adventure was terrified. Sally also had to fight some serious emotional battles on top of everything else. One tragic event from her youth was detailed in her book. As she mentioned, "I went through a dark patch in my late adolescence." She opened up about how performing helped her heal, which not many people knew. "My anxiousness, need to find anything, and sense of urgency all subsided after I started taking acting classes." Sally Field has been strong, passionate, heartbroken, and resilient throughout her life and work. A real moment at a time, she has been loved, secretly heard, and always gotten back up again. Jock Mahoney, the stepfather, sexually abused his child. Coming of age publicly was Sally Field. As a young actress, she became famous in the United States for her role as a carefree surfer girl on the hit TV show Gidget in the 1960s. She exuded an air of joy, innocence, and radiance. She hid a truth from the world for decades, but it lay beneath her bright smile and energetic performances. Something that Sally had never revealed to the world previously was revealed in her biography in pieces. Disconnected from the entertainment industry, notoriety was irrelevant. It had to do with traumatic experiences. Intense, painful, and deeply personal trauma. Sally finally spoke up about the severely inappropriate treatment she had received from her stepfather, Jock Mahoney. Married her mother when she was a little girl. He was an actor and stuntman. She went on to say that she loved him, but also wanted to keep him away from me. Feelings of bewilderment, dread, deceit, and anguish over love are all condensed into just one sentence. She detailed her struggles as a child and how she had to piece herself together just to survive. Sally was repressing memories she couldn't even begin to comprehend as she smiled on TV, and the world adored her for portraying naive characters like the Flying Nun. Her performance acting was more about staying alive than anything else. She went on to say that she was an expert at turning into the carefree person everyone thought she was just by switching a switch. She said it was like turning a switch. I started to bubble. She hid the darkness she carried within behind the vivacious exterior she had created for herself. Audiences had a hard time taking Field seriously as an actress due to her early success on television. She signed autographs while waiting in line for unemployment benefits after The Flying Nun was canceled. She had no clue what the future held. There was, however, activity offstage. With the help of her pen, she was beginning to examine the matters she had previously ignored. At first, she had no plans to have her story published. Personal use only. I penned it. I doubted I would muster the courage to release it to the public. Unbeknownst to her, she continued to feel pressured. The necessity to confront the long-buried truth. Something was simmering inside of me, and I felt a sense of urgency, anxiousness, and the need to uncover it. Thus, she meticulously recorded everything, recollection by recollection. I learned the hard way that in order to figure out why I was feeling this way, I needed to lay all the parts out there and see if I could piece them together. The fearlessness with which Sally Field spoke her mind had nothing to do with exposing anyone. It was about her getting well on her own terms, in silence and honesty. Mexican law prohibits abortion. Sally Field was a young woman who, before becoming an actress who won 2 Oscars, had to make the kind of tough choices that no one should have to do alone. Pieces of her harrowing memoir show an early traumatic event that Field says shaped her understanding of women, autonomy, and survival, and left invisible but permanent scars. No adolescent should have to confront a life-altering decision like Field did when she was only 17 years old. She was in a state of crisis during a time when there were few resources available to young women and support networks were few. Field, a high school student who was both confused and scared, was forced to make a decision that no child should ever face in isolation. She fled from home, alone and afraid, in a state of secrecy and despair, and armed only with terror and a rucksack. Her instructions were brief when they were at the border. She carried out the instructions given to her by a subtle recommendation on a piece of paper. She found herself in a cold, uncaring place that was far from the kind of community she needed when she finally made it there. Nobody took her hand. Her name was not warmly inquired by anyone. After her purpose was fulfilled, she would depart. Sally was resolute in her will to survive, not bold. She was a young woman in a strange land, seeking help in a country that kept secrets yet was not always safe. She would keep the weight of that moment on her shoulders in silence for decades because of the emotional resonance it left. It wasn't the physical pain of the act that hurt. Rather, it was the social stigma, isolation, and horror that she endured. Not even her closest friends or relatives knew about it. The recollection was buried deep within her, preserving it as a further chapter of survival. Though she refrains from using explicit detail in pieces, the reader is left with little question that the event was horrifying. It has nothing to do with politics. At a time when ladies had nowhere else to turn, it was her reality and a survival mechanism. The story's power lies not in the events shown, but in the light it casts on the unspoken struggles endured by other women during her era. Field had no reason to be careless. In no way was she defiant. As a little child, she struggled to find her place in a world where she didn't feel heard. The protagonist had to overcome internal struggles in order to overcome externally imposed humiliation in this story. It was for the sake of clarity that she initially went public with this hidden part of her life years later. It was about giving voice to her younger self, the one who lacked guidance, protection from the law, and faith in mercy. I failed to recognize that my fear was justified. Speaking about the emotional weight she carried, she made the statement in an interview. By coming clean, Sally Field accomplished more than just reliving a traumatic memory. She reminded people that they were never really alone by speaking out about something that many have buried. And by doing so, she brought to light the fact that behind every flawless performance and sunny disposition lies a story that is human, full of ups and downs, but ultimately worth telling. Fighting sexism and ageism front on. Nominated for multiple Oscars, Sally Field is much more than that. Hollywood's long-standing sexism and ageism are battles that she has tirelessly fought. Field felt she had to put in double the effort to be noticed in an industry that tends to ignore women over a certain age, even after more than 50 years in the spotlight. "I don't remember a time when I didn't feel like the underdog," she told BuzzFeed News at one point. "Actually, my career has been defined by being an underdog. Perhaps that's just something I've imagined. However, I doubt it is anything I conjure up in my imagination. To get anything significant in my life, I had to be a fierce competitor." She was telling the truth. The feeling of needing to prove herself persists despite her 2 Oscars, 3 Emmys, and a lifetime of unforgettable performances spanning Steel Magnolias, Mrs. Doubtfire, and The Amazing Spider-Man. The Hollywood tradition of treating elderly women as supporting cast members is a prime example of this, cutting them off from passion, wealth, and romance. As an example, Forrest Gump is probably the most excruciating. Field, who is just 10 years Tom Hanks' senior, was cast as the actor's mother. She acknowledged the emotional complexity of the matter. It wasn't merely strange casting at that moment. It subtly highlighted the rapid relegation of Hollywood women to mother roles, while male performers frequently secure romantic leads far into their older years in the industry. According to Field, once you pass 40, it's over, but men, they continue to receive love stories until the end of time. Her performance as Doris in Hello, My Name embodied defiance. Doris does not play a supporting role. She takes center stage, is eccentric, lonely, and caught up in an unexpected infatuation. Someone she cares about. An individual who is considerably younger. It would be more acceptable in society if we were to switch roles for a while. Field grinned and made note. That's right. When older guys date ladies half their age, Hollywood doesn't bat an eye. However, the audience's reaction often changes when the roles are switched. With Doris, Field thought he could expose the double standard. She elaborated that the story's uniqueness lies in the fact that it questions the concept of age. Humans are social creatures by nature. The exact age at which you form a bond with another person is a question of pure chance. That she refuses to give up is, perhaps, her strongest suit. Even though she is far into her 70s and no longer has any reason to prove herself, Sally Field insists on better not only for herself, but for every woman who has ever been subtly disregarded due to her age. In 2019, while protesting climate change, they were booked. The arrest of Sally Field in December 2019 was not surrounded by a scandal that involved tabloids. It was a morally driven decision. The Oscar-winning actress was on the steps of the U.S. Capitol with other activists and climate warriors on a rainy Friday afternoon in Washington, D.C. Capitol building when Jane Fonda's weekly Fire Drill Fridays protest was underway. This was not a staged event. Field chose to stand up and ended up in handcuffs during that real, honest, uncomfortable moment. She had just returned from a Kennedy Center celebration honoring her illustrious acting career. Most people would have stayed to bask in the splendor of their moment. In response to her conscience's call, Field forewent the ceremony and walked immediately to a climate protest, braving the cold and rain. The danger was obvious to her. What may happen was plain to see. Nevertheless, she persisted in going. "Here I am, a mom. Behold, I am a grandma." During her remarks, she stated that the time has come. "We are not allowed to remain in our cozy homes and ponder. Any suggestions? There is a way out. Perhaps we can take action." Indeed, she accomplished that. On that fateful day, Sally marched alongside activist Winona LaDuke and scores of others, speaking out for the planet as well as the people and places affected by the shift to an energy economy powered by renewable energy. Protesters that Friday were rallying behind the idea of a fair transition. Their demands extended beyond only action on climate change. For individuals whose lives were upended by the necessary transition away from fossil fuels, they were requesting income guarantees, healthcare, pensions, retraining programs, and relocation help. Fire Drill Friday's official account broadcast Field's arrest live. Cheers erupted from the crowd as Capitol Police led her down the stairs. With an air of calm dignity, she lifted her wrists in a solid, confident motion. Her expression conveyed solely determination, without any hint of drama. She had shown her support for Jane Fonda's arrest a few weeks before by tweeting a fist-raising emoji. There was no haste about this. It was an integral aspect of a larger dedication. An official from the Capitol Police Department, Eva Malecki, later verified that 26 individuals had been taken into custody and faced charges of incommoding, obstruction, or crowding. Conversely, Field made no effort to fight back. A sense of compassion and urgency inspired this peaceful civil disobedience. The climate problem is threatening our basic existence, and we cannot sit back and do nothing, Field added, expressing the mix of hope and worry that brought so many people to the Capitol steps that day. On the other hand, Sally Field's time had arrived. A battle for equality, fueled by a mother's love. Sally Field has played a wide range of mothers in her film career, from strong and courageous to shattered and utterly resilient. On the other hand, her off-screen roles may have been more crucial. Sam, her youngest son and a gay man, has an unfaltering and unconditional mother. And the fact that she stuck with him through the good times and the bad has given hope to many other families who have been through the same thing. Sally chose to speak out, passionately and fearlessly, in a world where it is all too easy to hide one's true self. Years of quiet observation, patient waiting, and anguish that no one except a mother can understand make up that powerful statement. Sam always wanted to be just like his elder brothers when he was younger. He strove desperately to mimic their actions, but he was unsuccessful. Field, being a mother, couldn't help but notice the conflict and the questions that were silent in her son's eyes. Her heart ached to lend him a hand. She hoped she could find a solution. She penned an emotional open letter about how she wanted to jump in when she saw him struggle. However, his elder siblings restrained me. They informed Sam that I couldn't go down that path. I was not authorized to travel. Accordingly, she patiently waited. Without ever letting go or being present, she stood aside emotionally. The only way I could ease his burden would be to be by his side, show him how much I love him, be there for him no matter what, and never let him forget it. Love that stays, without fanfare, is the kind of love that matters. As a youngster struggles to find their value in a world that constantly tries to tell them what it is, there are moments of uncertainty and quiet terror. Sally didn't even blink when Sam, who was 20 years old at the time, came out. If anything, her volume was steadily increased. Certainly for him, and for all the children who lack a father figure similar to hers. The Equality Act, which would outlaw discrimination on the basis of a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, has been her tirelessly pursued goal. Together with Sam, she has emerged as a powerful advocate for social reform. A foundation of all that is right is love, and she has never stopped reminding the world of this. Who would dare to try to stop my son? She inquired as to whether anyone's child would be deprived of fundamental legal protections. Until individuals speak up, nothing will change, even though it doesn't make sense. This is not about Sally Field pursuing fame or politics. It's about her son, her family, and the profound fact that every child deserves to live their authentic lives embraced, cherished, and protected from harm. Everything she really owes regarding Forrest Gump. It's taken Sally Field 30 years after Forrest Gump's global takeover to speak out, and her comments will change the way moviegoers perceive the picture indefinitely. Field admits it was not as easy as it looked on film, despite the praise she garnered for her powerful performance as Forrest's caring and wise mother. Actually, it hit a chord with her on an emotional level that she buried for a long time. Why? Despite being 10 years Tom Hanks's junior, she played the role of Tom's mother. While it was happening, she remained silent. That stillness, however, was hardly tranquility. Agony ensued. The fact that everyone subtly went along with it, as if having her around as a mother figure were second nature, only made matters worse. More than simply a part, she lost a piece of herself. The part of her that yearned to be valued, important, and in a position of leadership, was prematurely and subtly thrust into mother roles in a world where elder male thespians are stereotyped as always playing romance leads. She later admitted that her presence there was symptomatic of a bigger issue, the Hollywood industry's penchant for erasing women beyond a particular age while men continue to thrive. Thankful for the opportunity, but wounded by the unspoken truth, she held her tongue for a long time. She became invisible while working as Mrs. Gump. It was more than just an aging effect. She had the opportunity to read major lines with grace and kindness, but she was secretly going through a tough time accepting the reality that her time with her romantic interest was brief. She has acknowledged that the moment filming ceased, there was an eerie stillness. Applause failed to compensate for the absence. There was more than one role involved. It pertained to everything that the position represented. A system that prioritizes stereotypes above emotional subtlety, ages out female actors, and ignores actresses. It was obvious to Sally Field, possibly her generation's finest actress, that she was being reduced to type. When asked about the picture again, years later, she became more forthcoming. She hinted that the character's emotional complexity was palpable. It had cost her, but she didn't regret it. Because of this role, she had to pretend to be someone she wasn't emotionally or mentally ready to be, yet no one ever noticed. The most remarkable thing is not what happened, but how she endured it for such a long time. While doing interviews, she kept her head down, grinned, and let everyone toast the film. Meanwhile, she was quietly lamenting the diminishing realm that Hollywood had granted her. But deep inside, she was fighting the silent grief of being left behind, to a machine that saw no use for her beyond being a mother. She has finally broken her silence after 30 years. In coming clean about her feelings over Forrest Gump, Sally Field is revealing a deeper anguish for women in Hollywood. A woman who gave her all but was ultimately forced to take a back seat. A reinterpretation of history, not a piece of the puzzle. You will never watch Forrest Gump again after learning Sally Field's version, or the company that owns it, in the same manner once more. In addition to reflecting on a much-loved film, Sally Field's confession regarding Forrest Gump serves as a reminder that the film industry is far from free of ageism, misogyny, and typecasting. She was portrayed by her audience for many years as a wise and graceful mother figure who molded Forrest's fate. Now we know, though, that an actress was subtly taking in a devastating message behind those stunning sequences. That, even before she was 50, her Hollywood value had been revised. Casting decisions aren't the only thing that this information makes us question. It also raises serious concerns about the mental and emotional toll that telling actors to smile through silent sadness takes on them. Many women in the field have been marginalized, changed, or silenced because Field is still willing to speak up, even after 30 years. Still, her tenacity has a really poetic quality. She brought millions of people together with a performance that was based on a role that had hurt her personally. By gracefully and honestly recreating her own tale, she has transformed her anguish into power. Thanks to its moving storyline, memorable phrases, and enduring appeal, Forrest Gump will live on in the hearts of its admirers forever. The whole narrative, though, was unfolding behind the scenes, and Sally Field is the one who let us in on the secret. We have much more admiration for her work in light of that unfiltered reality. The bravery to share one's tale, no matter how lengthy it may be, is what truly defines her legacy, not the role she performed. Please like, share, and subscribe for more shocking Hollywood secrets if you found this story inspiring. Also, tell us what you think of Sally Field's emotional announcement by leaving a comment. These tales serve as a sobering reminder that there is frequently an unseen battle for every Hollywood grin. Please stay for what is about to happen, because it may surprise you even more.